Hello, thank you for checking out Mr. Ware's videos. Today we're looking at Unit 5 Assessment Study Guide. So I'm going to get my students prepared for the Unit 5 assessment. Deals with a lot of different things from inequalities to solving system of equations. So let's take a look. Alright, here it says which graph represents the inequality below. Okay, so there's a couple ways to go about this. One way you do this is you can graph it by the intercepts. You can graph it by the intercept. The actual, you can cover up the negative 4x and divide by 2 to find the y-intercept. And you can cover up the 2 here, 2y, and divide by negative 4 to get the x-intercept. When you do the x-intercept, you're going to get a fraction. But either way, you can figure out exactly which way it's going, where the line should be, and everything. Another way to do it is to graph it in slope-intercept form. So in order to do that, we got to write it in slope-intercept form because it's in standard form. So first, I'm going to rewrite the equation. 2y negative 4x greater than negative 6. And I'm going to solve for y. So I need to remove this negative 4x, and I do that by adding 4x on both sides. Alright, remember these are not like terms, so you cannot combine them. So you got 2y is greater than 4x minus 6. Now, so the 4's that canceled out. I put that negative 4x in a positive 4x in the front and negative 6 in the back. Now to get this y by itself, I'm going to divide by 2. The 2's are canceled out, leaving y. And then y is greater than 2x minus 3. 4 divided by 2 is going to be 2, and negative 6 divided by 2 is 3. Keep in mind, if you ever divide by a negative coefficient here, you have to swap the inequality. Okay, now we got y is greater than 2x minus 3. Alright, now what you want to do is graph it from here, and what happens is because this is greater than, we're going to shade above, and because it's equal to or not equal to, we're going to use a dash line. So you're looking for one for a dash line, and it's shaded above, which would be A here. Alright, let's look at another one. Alright, so this one's similar. We got which graph represents the inequality. Here we got graphs going in different directions. You got some that's going positive and a couple that's going negative. Okay, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to solve for y. So I rewrote 4x plus 3y less than or equal to negative 6. I'm going to isolate the y term. Notice that the y is over here in the middle here. So I'm going to subtract the 4x on both sides. The 4x is canceled out, and that's going to leave me with 3y. I move that negative 4x in the front and put that negative 6 in the back. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is divide by 3. Because the coefficient here is 3 to get this y by itself. And I do it on each term. And that's going to leave me with y is less than or equal to negative 4 over 3x minus 2. Alright, now we've got a little bit more information. We can use this information to figure out which graph you have. But since we have multiple choice, we could actually eliminate some options. We notice that the slope is negative 4 over 3. And because the slope is negative, we know that the line has to go down from left to right. So these two options right here, we could automatically eliminate right away. So now you know it's either between C and D, right? And both of them are going down as far as the shading, less than, but it's equal to. So because it's equal to, we're going to use a solid line, which is going to be C, instead of a dash line, which is D. All right, let's take a look at number 3. Okay, in number 3 it says which point is not a solution to the system of linear inequalities below. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to take each one of these choices and plug them in. We're going to plug in the x and the y and see if the equation or the inequality is true. Then, since we're looking for one that is not, if we're trying to find one where it's not in both inequalities. So we got to plug them in both to see if it's not. So let's take a look. All right, I'm plugging in 4 for x and plugging in -6 for y. And now look, there's no letters, anything, any variables. All you gotta do is solve it and see if it's true. So I'm gonna do 4 minus 2, and that gives me 2. And then on the left side I got -6. Is -6 less than or equal to 2? Yes. Right? So that works. Alright, but I gotta check it for this one to make sure that this one is not one of them. Okay? Because right now it says yes, and I'm looking for the one that's not. So I plug in 4, and I plug in -6, and take a look at this one. So I'm plugging in here for this x on this one, and then 4 times -2 gives me -8, and -8 minus 1 gives me -9. Now I check to see is -6 greater than -9. Yes, -6 is greater than -9 because it's closer to 0. You rather owe $6 than owe $9. So in this situation, they're both true. So this is a solution for both of these. So that is not the one. We got to keep going. All right, now I'm going to try B, -11 and -2. We plug both of those in. We plug in -11 minus 2 and -2 for y. All right, same sign, find the sum. -11 and -2 is -13. Okay, so here, made a mistake. We got -13 and -2 here. -13 is not greater than -2. So this is not a solution, right? But if you go on to the next one here and plug it in for the blue one, plug in -11 and -2, I get +22 minus 1, and that gets me 21 is less than -2, also not true. So this is not true. So you could have stopped right here as soon as you get one that's not true. But I went ahead because I made a mistake there. But here, this one is not true, so our answer is going to be B. All right, let's take a look at another one. All right, it says, which point is a solution to the system of linear inequalities below? All right, this one is, which one is a solution? All right. So first I plugged in the 0 and 10. I plugged in 10 for y and 0 for x. All right, 0 minus 5 is -5. And 10 is not less or equal to -5, so that takes a out. It's not a solution. Let's try another one. then I would try B. I'm plugging in 0 for X and 7 for Y. I got 0 minus 5, which is negative 5. And negative 5 is not greater than, well, 7 is not less than or equal to negative 5. So we take that out. So that doesn't work either. Let's try another one. All right, now I'm going to plug in 5 for X, negative 1. All right, 5 minus 5 gives me 0. Negative 1 is less than or equal to 0. So now I'm going to try the next one. I'm going to plug in 5 for X, and I got a fraction here. So I took that 5 and made it a fraction so I can multiply. Plug in negative 1 for Y. Alright, I'm going to multiply 4 times 5 and 5 times 1. 4 times 5 is 20, and 5 times 1 is 5. So I get negative 1 less than or equal to 20 over 5 plus 4. Alright, now I'm going to do the 20 and divide it by 5. I get 4. So I got negative 1 less than or equal to 4 plus 4. Alright, 4 plus 4 is 8. So I got negative 1 is less than or equal to 8. Negative 1 is less than or equal to 8. So this is a solution. So our answer is C. Alright, so I'm going to cut this one off at number 4. And stay tuned for part 2 to this video. And again, thank you for checking out Mr. Ware's videos. Have a nice day.